Now, this is a very fast circuit. It's very fast, it means high top speeds, and high top speeds means small wings, and you can just see ahead how very thin, basically, the rear wing on those cars are. The combination of little downforce and hard tyres means that the cars will slide around a great deal, and it looks like David Coulthard's gone off on the warm-up lap.
Well, somebody certainly has, and it's a Williams, and it is David Coulthard. Now, this is quite incredible. David Coulthard, for whatever reason, has blown his chances of winning the Italian Grand Prix before it even starts. And that means to say, Berry is struggling back onto the line, but even if his car is undamaged, he will have to start from the back of the grid, and that effectively makes Michael Schumacher the pole position holder, with Gerhard Berger moving up to second and Damon Hill up to third, and there will be nobody on the... Here's a replay coming up now. Let's look at it.
Now let's have a look there. He gets on the power, the back comes around, he goes into the gravel trap. I don't think he's actually touched anything. Now this is simply exactly what I was saying, the combination of low downforce, these very hard tyres. It's taken these drivers a long time throughout the weekend in terms of a number of laps to get temperature into those tyres, but that is a basic driving mistake from David Coulthard. Now whether or not he'll come back into the pits to have the car checked or change tyres, that really is what he needs to do, because he will not get any significant grip from being on those tyres with all of that gravel on. Now, these cars will be accelerating from 0 to 185 miles an hour off the line, then have to brake right down to 50 miles an hour into that first chicane.
As they sweep away the dust, watch for the lights. It'll be some time before they come up yet, of course, but as you see on the left, Michael Schumacher is now in pole position effectively, with to the right in the red Ferrari, Gerhard Berger, and behind Schumacher is Damon Hill, and into the pits has come David Coulthard as the last two cars, the 40s, come up to take their position on the 23-car grid. Who's going to get into the Redifilio first? Is it going to be Schumacher? Schumacher cutting off Gerhard Berger. Alesi trying to sprint through, but Schumacher, Alesi and Berger go into the Redifilio together. Now, are they all going to get through? They're all through so far. Somebody nearly off. But as we move round with the leaders, it looked to me as though everybody got round, except, of course, the unfortunate David Coulthard. Maybe it was the stress of the occasion that got to the Scotsman, but whatever, his chances of winning have been severely diminished, because he's coming out from the pit lane eventually to start right behind the rest of the field. And Schumacher leads. Ferrari, Johnny Herbert is up into fourth position, ahead of Damon Hill. And it is Gerhard Berger who is second. It's Jean Alesi who is third. And this has been the opportunity of a lifetime for Michael Schumacher, who must be sitting there hardly believing his luck that David Coulthard, who has dominated the Monza meeting so far with fastest time on Friday and then a repeat to give him pole position for the start of the race, didn't even start it. And David Coulthard is the first retirement of the Italian Grand Prix. He is out of the race. And now the and that is on Montermini out in the Pacific. So that's two retirements, and there is it's Bouillon, and behind Bouillon is one of the Arrows cars. It looked like Max Papis to me. So that's four cars missing at the end of the first lap, and into the lead goes the Ferrari. Gerhard Berger has gone into the lead in the Ferrari ahead of Michael Schumacher, and they're going to have to stop the race. They're going to have to stop the race. The red flag is out. The Italian Grand Prix is being stopped. Now, this is a good thing for David Coulthard, because they will have to reform the grid, and he should be able to get back on the grid in pole position. There is Coulthard's car in the garage, and they're getting the spare car ready for David Coulthard. So terrible luck for Max Papis, for Bouillon, but great luck for David Coulthard. This is his chance. Here's a replay.
Now that's the Pacific there of Montermini, I'm sure, spinning, or it might even be a Tyrrell. No, that's Montermini. Papis ahead. Through goes Lamy in one of the Minardes, then Moreno, I believe. And so that is Montermini. Difficult to know quite what happened there, how it was caused, but that was at the Ascari chicane. Then that's Pedro Diniz. So Pedro Diniz in one of the 40 cars, he was involved. And there we are, there's Montermini getting really very agitated indeed. Not quite sure why, but maybe he thinks he can get his car back to the pits. But this is going to be a tremendous relief for David Coulthard. Now the spare Williams is set up for Damon Hill, and despite the fact they're roughly the same size, there is a lot to be done. You can see the track is virtually blocked. In fact, it is completely blocked there, and they're being channeled around. And this will mean that they're going to be picking up dirt and dust because they're right offline on that. And we may well see some tyre changes going on now. But what a huge relief for David Coulthard. He won't believe it. He will have been absolutely distraught to have gone off like that. And now his emotions are going to be in complete turmoil as he now needs to get back in that car. He will know the team will have been absolutely furious with him. He'll be furious with himself. But this is a second chance, and this will mean that at the restart, David Coulthard will once again start from his pole position place.
The amazing thing about Coulthard going off, of course, and this is a comment and not a criticism, is that he would have known how hard those Goodyear A compound tyres are. He's been using them through Friday and Saturday qualifying and this morning. He would know, of course, that as the man in pole position, his is the responsibility for leading the field round, and he can drive at any pace he likes. But it's all too easy to make comments like that when you're not sitting in the cockpit.
Now here we can see the replay, and it looked like Papis there, just spinning. I think that's Papis, Max Papis in the footwork car. But really, it's not. I don't think it's desperately important into this point as to who's to blame for that. But once cars goes off with that congested first lap, there is such a great chance of the race being stopped. Now, because the race was stopped before 2 laps have been completed, and there's a little bit of a fire going on there momentarily, I believe, or maybe that. Yes, there is indeed a bit of a fire, and I think that was out of the back of the footwork car. It is indeed. That's the car of Papis. Now, because the race was stopped before 2 laps have been completed, the race will be restarted, the grid will be reformed to the original grid, and the race will be then run to the full standard distance, so a full 53 laps. So anyone who, those drivers who've got spare cars to get back into, and that will be Papis, I'm sure, although again the car may have to be changed from Inouye, because I suspect that Inouye's contract gives him priority on the spare car. Now here's another look there. Now there is Papis, and it looks like Papis there. Is he going to touch? If he hasn't touched, he's got very close to Panis in the Ligier. There is Luco. No, I think that might be Martini or Luco Badeau. It's one of the Minardis. Behind spins a Tyrrell, and that looks like Katayama. And let's see if we get anything more to look at. No, we haven't. Although, no, we're back to the grid.
Incredulous looks on the face of David Coulthard as he emerged from the back of the Williams garage. He snatched a quick word with Frank Williams and then proceeded to try and get all the concrete dust off his visor from his helmet. And now the mechanics are furiously working, changing the bits from his original car. They're moving the pedals, they're adjusting the seats and the seat belts, frantically working, getting this T-car transferred from Damon Hill's setups inside the cockpit for David Coulthard. So it looks like he's getting another chance.
There are all sorts of things that wouldn't immediately strike you that have to be changed on the car. For instance, they have an electronic fly-by-wire throttle, and the way David Coulthard uses it and the way Damon Hill uses it is very different indeed. And that was a problem in a previous race when David had to take over Damon's car, or the T-car as it was at the time, and he found a great deal of difficulty in adjusting to the way that Damon used the throttle pedal. But the Williams team are absolutely superb at crises. Here's a replay of the start.
Now let's look at Michael Schumacher right at the front, squeezing across to Gerhard Berger. Now Michael Schumacher, you can see he just gives him a little bit of room, but I'm sure that manoeuvre is going to be looked at by the stewards, because of course Schumacher was given a one-race suspended ban, suspended for 4 races, which basically means that if he committed another transgression within the next 4 races, and this is one of them, then he would be banned for 1 Grand Prix. Now Berger had the run on him, I would say. Berger was slightly closing on Schumacher, but Schumacher definitely moved across. Now they didn't touch, and Schumacher did give Berger room, and I think that's he'll probably get away with that one, but he's certainly pushing things very, very hard indeed. But of course, it is so desperately important to get ahead. And there, I think we might just have seen what happened to Diniz. There was certainly a 40 there. that looked as if it was being chopped pretty hard by one of the Pacifics, right at the back of the field, coming into the Rettifilo.
Bit of a problem for Ferrari, of course, if they feel that Schumacher moving across on Gerhard Berger denied him his racing line. David Coulthard going out in the spare Williams, and Alesi, why is Alesi out of his car? Because he's waiting for the restart.